These conspiracy theories are going absolutely viral on TikTok right now. I feel like one of the bigger conspiracy theories that I've seen trending again lately, because this is obviously an OG, people have had this conspiracy theory for probably a decade at this point, and it's all about Gaylor. So yes, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's relationship being a secret lavender marriage. I didn't even do that on purpose, but I made the lights behind me lavender. Slay. I think the reason that this conspiracy theory has resurfaced so much over the past couple of weeks is obviously because Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce just had their massive wedding in Madison Square Garden. And honestly, I do think that the reason conspiracy theories like this and like Larry Stylinson, like why those conspiracy theories exist is because over time they have been proven to be like correct. Not about these specific people, but in the past, if you guys didn't know, there are so many old Hollywood celebrities and public figures who people thought were in secret gay relationships with various other celebrities, and a lot of the truth has like come out since then. Like people always say James Dean and Marlon Brando, Marilyn Monroe is a big one. Like there are multiple women who claim to have had relationship with Marilyn Monroe, and the list goes on and on. So it's like not a new concept, and obviously it's now more widely accepted to be gay in Hollywood than it was, you know, 60 years ago. But something that I do find interesting regardless is the fact that this is still happening to this day, and we see it happening and unfolding in so many blind items. There are so many celebrities who have these lavender marriages or basically secretly have these queer relationships, and I find it to be very interesting. I think for Taylor Swift, the main reason that the Gaylors believe that she is queer is because of the queer coding in a lot of her music. Taylor Swift obviously is known for like having all these Easter eggs and hidden messages in her songs, and I do think that a lot of them could be reaching, like a lot of the Gaylor evidence could be reaching, but I also really understand where y'all are coming from, and it really could be true. I feel like I've never dove full into the Gaylor rabbit hole, and now that I have, you guys have got me a little convinced. I'm not gonna lie. Kind of believe some of it. The like biggest part I would say of this conspiracy theory is definitely the relationship between Karlie Kloss and Taylor Swift. Multiple people think that the two of them had a romantic relationship, and honestly there's a lot of reasons why.
The internet seems to think that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are hiding a massive secret, and now that I've done the research, I believe they are too. There's a theory that Taylor and Travis are in a lavender marriage, which is historically a marriage of convenience between a man and a woman to hide the fact that one or both parties are gay. But to understand this theory, we need to go back to 2014 and Karlie Kloss. Get comfortable while I explain all of this lore. Here's 2014. Karlie Kloss and Taylor are inseparable. They took this infamous road trip to Big Sur. They were constantly being photographed together, and fans became obsessed with Gaylor. Then in December of 2014, Kissgate happens. Karlie and Taylor were seen making out at the 1975 concert where Taylor was simultaneously linked to Maddie Healy. And in February of 2015, this Vogue cover comes out framing them as the best of friends. In that same month, Taylor starts dating Calvin Harris and meets Tom Hiddleston at the Met Gala in 2016. All the while, Karlie Kloss is dating her now husband, Josh Kushner. And Taylor and Karlie still seem to remain extremely close. Now, fast forward a few months into 2016, Taylor starts dating Joe Alwyn, and suddenly Taylor and Karlie essentially disappear from each other's public lives. And then we get the Reputation album, an album about hiding, secret love, intense public scrutiny. All the while, there are no more public outings with Karlie. Then it's July of 2018, and Karlie gets engaged to Josh Kushner. 1 month later, Karlie goes to the Reputation tour in Nashville, takes a photo with Taylor, posts it to Instagram, and then all of the fallout speculations have been shut down. But then Karlie Kloss gets married in July of 2018. Taylor does not attend the wedding. In 2019, Karlie has a much bigger wedding celebration where Taylor Swift also does not attend. After years of being inseparable, these two are basically never seen publicly together ever again. Now, people were really quick to blame Scooter Braun for the fallout between Karlie and Taylor. However, it's important to know that Taylor's drama with Scooter Braun didn't really explode until 2019 when Scooter's company, Ithaca Holdings, bought Scott Borchetta's Big Machine record label, which was Taylor Swift's record label at the time. And then, of course, she lost all the ownership rights to her masters. Nonetheless, Taylor moves on with her life and comes out with the Lover album, which everyone speculates it's obviously about her boyfriend, Joe Alwyn. But it's interesting because the first song on that album is I Forgot That You Existed. And there's other breakup songs on that album, specifically Death by a Thousand Cuts. And then we get the Lockdown albums like Folklore and Evermore. And there's a song on Evermore called Gold Rush that fans speculate is completely about Karlie Kloss. I mean, if you don't know, please take a second to read these lyrics. And then Taylor comes out with Midnights, dare I say, the most important album of her identity. Midnights is an album themed in the color lavender. The first song on the album is called Lavender Haze. And if you don't know, now you know that the color lavender is deeply tied to lesbian culture. In the 1920s, lesbians used to give each other violets and wear lavenders to secretly signal their attraction to women. Months after that album, Taylor and Joe break up, and Taylor very publicly starts dating Travis Kelce. Now, allow me to get into this. Start with their engagement announcement. The caption of this Instagram post has a firework emoji. Everyone assumed it meant TNT. It's definitely a firework because this is what a firework looks like before it explodes. Now, Taylor famously seems very obsessed with the 4th of July and America. There's a lot of 4th of July references in a lot of her songs, and she's also known to have a massive 4th of July party every summer. A lot of those parties which were spent with Karlie Kloss. On the Reputation album, in the song Endgame, she says something was born on the 4th of July, like a revelation or a spark of some kind. In the song King of My Heart, she says, "Salute to me, I'm your American queen." On the album Lover, in the song Death by a Thousand Cuts, she uses United We Stand. And then on the song Evermore, she says, "I've been down since July." And on this same album is the song Gold Rush, a song that Gaylor theorists have long speculated could be about Karlie. So remember two things: July and the color gold, because Taylor and Travis get married on the 4th of July weekend, and Karlie Kloss shows up wearing gold. This is the first public sighting between Taylor and Karlie that we've known about since 2018. Okay, now let's talk Lavender and this alleged Lavender marriage. As previously discussed in part 1, I believe that Midnights was a huge album for Taylor's identity, and that's whether you believe this theory or not. Now, the first song on Midnights, being Lavender Haze, is really interesting because that is a song about wanting to stay inside a private love bubble and really rejecting any 1950s expectations that so often the entertainment industry places on these celebrities and public figures. She literally sings about how the only type of person people see in her is either a one night stand or a wife. And then she gets into this massively public relationship, does a not so private wedding at MSG, where Chanel bags were given out as prizes and a car like this 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle. You're telling me the Taylor Swift that chooses to drive a Toyota is giving out Chanel bags and Chevrolets at her wedding? Interesting. And then there's this ugly sign plastered outside of Pennsylvania Station in what color? Could have been any color of the rainbow, but they chose lavender. It was confirmed that an NDA had to be signed by all wedding guests, but there were cameras filming inside MSG during the wedding. One guest leaving allegedly said, "Wait until you see the movie," which leads me to the fact that Adam Sandler officiated the wedding. Now, I know Adam and Travis are friends, but historically, the person that officiates your wedding is someone who is pretty meaningful to the couple. Have you ever seen Adam Sandler sitting at a Chiefs game with Taylor Swift? I don't think so. Now, Taylor's last album was literally called The Life of a Showgirl, all about her life as an entertainer and a brand for her fans. And I don't know about you guys, but I am very entertained. So much so that I feel like we could possibly have a real life Evelyn Hugo on our hands. It's just that it's too many coincidences, and Taylor Swift is so genius. If any of it's true at all, I'm honestly an even bigger Swiftie because how iconic. I'll be waiting for the Taylor Swift memoir about how she fooled us all in the name of love.
So the thing with Karlie Kloss is I actually do believe that her and Taylor Swift had a relationship. I mean, well, okay. Actually, yeah, I do believe it. Sorry. Have you ever heard the song Dress by Taylor Swift? Because some of the lyrics are "Major mark on me, a golden tattoo." And like Karlie and Taylor have been seen like with like fake gold tattoos together, which what the fuck? Like what else are you trying to say? I don't know. I don't know. And then like Karlie Kloss in New York City had a garden gate in her apartment. I just believe it. I just believe it a little bit. And they absolutely, like, regardless, were definitely kissing at the 1975 concert. There's no doubt about that. But were they just like hee hee ha ha, like straight girls kissing? Or was it something more? That is the question. I want to know your thoughts. And apparently, Joe Alwyn is planning on releasing all of this information and outing Taylor. So a blind item was posted that said, "This foreign A-/B+ list actor all of you somehow know is about to induce a whole lot of head scratching, making a ton of certain gossip conspirators insanely busy for the next year or so, and open the floodgates to blind items that have been waiting for this moment to be revealed." And this is allegedly Joe Alwyn, Taylor Swift, and Karlie Kloss. I really want to hear you guys' thoughts on this overall because I have mixed opinions. Like, part of me is like, okay, well, why wouldn't they just come out? But then there are so many instances where I think there are celebrities who have been confirmed. I mean, this is on a much obviously less scale than Taylor Swift, but I think about Dan and Phil a lot. And the fact that the fans were correct about that is actually kind of bonkers when you think about it, because they were like professional sleuths. So I'm like, if they were actually together and in a relationship, who knows about Larry and Gaylor? Like, it could be real. And I kind of understand why people believe it, but let me know your thoughts. Apparently, Zac Efron is in serious danger, and I'm a little scared.
Zac Efron's life is allegedly in danger. Every once in a while, a blind item comes along that's so shocking it immediately grabs everyone's attention. And this latest rumor about Zac Efron is definitely one of those. A new blind item is claiming that Zac Efron's life is allegedly in danger, and it tries to connect whatever is supposedly happening with his health to Saudi film producer Mohammed Al Turki. And before we go any further, I want to be clear this is an unverified blind item. There is no public evidence that these claims are true, so this is just speculation. That being said, I think it's worth talking about why so many people are taking this seriously, because this rumor didn't just appear out of nowhere. If you've followed celebrity blind items for years, you'll probably recognize these two names together. There have been recurring rumors for a long time linking Zac and Mohammed Al Turki. Then, back in June, another blind item claimed that Zac had supposedly moved out of the country to get away from Mohammed. Now, this new blind item takes things even further, and you can see why people are connecting the dots. The bigger conversation, though, is about the alleged yacht boy rumors that have surrounded Zac for years. Blind items have repeatedly claimed that he was involved in the yachting world, where wealthy people pay celebrities for companionship. It's been suggested that Mohammed Al Turki was connected in some way, like he was the ringleader, getting clients for Zac and controlling him. The blind items even refer to him as the Svengali, which is a term for a person who dominates, manipulates, or controls another, usually with malicious intent. But here's the important part: none of that has ever been publicly proven. I've also seen people speculate that if there were any truth to those alleged yacht rumors, maybe that lifestyle could have led to substance abuse or long-term health problems. What fascinates me is how the internet works once a narrative takes hold. Recently, Zac pulled out of a scheduled appearance, and people immediately think of that as evidence that this blind item must be true. But realistically, celebrities cancel events all the time for reasons we never hear about. At the same time, I do understand why people keep revisiting these stories. Hollywood has had enough real scandals over the years that people have become conditioned to believe there's always something darker happening behind the scenes. Sometimes those instincts end up being right. So I'm really curious what you think. Are these blind items just feeding off of years of internet rumors? Or do you think that the fact that the same names keep coming up means that there could actually be something to them?
So honestly, the reason I wouldn't be surprised about this is because I see that this Muhammad Al Turkey guy running in the same circles as Naomi Campbell. And I just think that both of them have been accused of so many crazy things when it comes to like yachting and all of this like creepy shit. And honestly, Naomi Campbell was on Jeffrey Epstein's island. Like, we know that for a fact. So the fact that they're all kind of connected here is what's making me a little uncomfortable. And I see Naomi Campbell commenting on Zac Efron's Instagram, and I'm just like, what's going on here? I don't know. I don't like it. I think it's pretty clear that Zac Efron was in the yacht scene. So I do think that this blind item is probably true. And it makes me really concerned. And somebody needs to call Nikki Blonsky. Speaking of Taylor, we need to talk about Taylor Farms, because what the fuck is going on, guys? What the hell? Okay, so we all know about the parasite outbreak that is happening, and we thought it was a case solved situation because the FDA came out and said, hey, this lettuce from Taylor Farms tested positive for the parasite. And we were all like, cool, don't eat that lettuce. But now the FDA has since revoked this positive test and claimed that it is a false positive. And I just think it feels very convenient because of how much of a donor Taylor Farms is to the Trump administration and Trump's FDA. And I find it a little too convenient, okay?
Something about this Taylor Farms story deserves a closer look. So Taylor Farms just announced that the FDA has apologized after telling the company that one of its iceberg lettuce products had tested positive for cyclospora. That's that parasite that's causing an explosive diarrhea outbreak across the United States. Well, according to Taylor Farms, the FDA has now said that the result was a false positive and that no Taylor Farms product has tested positive for the parasite. The company says that it acted out of an abundance of caution by voluntarily recalling certain iceberg lettuce from central Mexico. But here's why people are asking questions and why you should too. The cyclospora outbreak investigation is still ongoing, and during that investigation, the New York Times reported that Taylor Farms hired a former Trump White House official and that company executives met with White House and FDA officials where they challenged the government's conclusions about the outbreak. There's also this political context. Ready for this? Taylor Farms contributed $1 million to Make America Great Again, Inc. in March 2025, shortly after the FDA delayed the implementation of the food traceability rule. Public campaign finance records also show CEO Bruce Taylor has made large donations to Republican committees, including the NRSC Victory Fund, John Cornyn's political committees, and several other GOP organizations. Now, to be absolutely clear, none of these facts prove that the political donations, White House meetings, or lobbying efforts had anything to do with the FDA result reversing its test result. There's no evidence establishing such a connection, but they are part of the timeline, and when a major food safety investigation, political donations, and White House access, and an FDA reversal all intersect, well, it's understandable why people are paying close attention and asking for transparency.
Yeah, I do agree that something about this feels off. I don't know exactly what it is, but I do think that it is a very interesting coincidence that they just happened to like get a false positive like that. I don't know. I don't know if I believe it. And I would like to hear your guys' thoughts on this because like a lot of you guys have been tagging me in TikToks about the outbreak like crazy, which I totally get it, but that's kind of my thoughts. But I kind of agree with what this creator just said. All right, Palm Beach Pete has been seen again, and he quite literally reacts to himself being called Jeffrey Epstein. And he quite literally answers to Jeffrey Epstein in this TikTok. So I'm a little concerned here.
That's Palm Beach Pete. Hold on. Jeffrey. Palm Beach Pete.
The smile and then the realization that he's being recorded freaks me out. I don't know, you guys, I know I like go back and forth on whether or not I think Palm Beach Pete is actually Jeffrey Epstein. Like, I kind of don't think it because they don't really look that much alike to me. But there are so many weird instances with this guy. I think he is weird, and I think it is weird that he like has built his whole brand off of looking like one of the most prolific PDF files in like history. So I just find that to be a little strange, and I really want to hear your guys' thoughts on that and I really want to hear your guys' thoughts because you guys also have been tagging me in that video nonstop. I just think though the way he reacts though is so specific. It reminds me of this video of Ghislaine Maxwell in Quebec that's allegedly a deep fake. But the way that the person reacts to being called Ghislaine just makes it feel like that's her name. Like, I don't know what else to say. Speaking of Epstein though, girl, I cannot believe that Mr. Beast did this. So essentially Mr. Beast got married at Sir Richard Branson's private island, and he was a very close friend of Jeffrey Epstein. So the blind item reads, I guess the A+ list YouTuber was okay getting married and giving money to one of the best friends of the dead pedo. Could have picked a different place to get married. And this is about Mr. Beast because now we know. I just think that it is such a crazy thing to do, in my opinion. Like, wild. I don't understand why you would want to get married at this guy's private island. I also think the fact that one of Jeffrey Epstein's friends, like close friends, having a private island and being like a billionaire is a point of concern in itself. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Obviously, we've seen Mr. Beast be fucking the worst. Controversial. I don't even know. He just is like a horrible influence towards children. And I think he is actually a danger to society. Not gonna lie. Not to be Rosanna Pansino, but I kind of think she's just pretty accurate on a lot of stuff. All right, speaking of Jeffrey Epstein, I saw another blind item where apparently JD Vance said that the dead pedo was an agent for multiple governments. It would follow that the dead pedo also had blackmail on everyone too. This is why nothing is looked into or released. Well, duh. Literally, yeah. I feel like that's obvious. But I still want to hear your guys' thoughts, but I feel like we been knew, and like the call is coming from literally inside the house, the White House, that is. All right, I saw this really crazy TikTok basically talking about the idea that the sun is not who we think she is, okay? And honestly, at first I was like, this is gonna be stupid. And you know what? It kind of actually makes sense. I'll say it.
So I got some really cool pictures of the sun yesterday, but I'm about to prove to you that that's actually a reflection of the sun simulator, and I'm gonna actually prove it. So yeah, I was at the beach, and these are all just taken with my iPhone camera, like unfiltered, unedited pictures. No, this one was my favorite. But anyways, if we're getting back to the point, look at that. Now look at these. Those are from a flashlight. I'll show you the video in just a second. See that? That's a reflection of the inside of the flashlight. It looks the exact same. Same with those. It's gonna reflect exactly what that light source looks like. Okay? I couldn't really like zoom in on it. That's why I just showed y'all a screenshot a second ago. But using this flashlight to show you that the little lens reflector behaves the same, whether it's the sun or a flashlight, and it is showing you exactly what the inside of that flashlight looks like. So why is it so bizarre or like crazy to assume that that is the same reflection as that? It didn't always look like that, and I'm gonna prove that next. So May 16, 2018, sun, I was on Belle Isle. Look at that one. Let's zoom in on it. Look at that. There's no fucking... Here's another example. 2019, there's the sun. There's the little bluish, greenish, whatever, reflector with no lines, no grid, no nothing. And again, even in 2020, down there, not the best picture. Right here, 2019 again. Look right there. Right here, the date was cut out. I think that was 2020 something, but again, no fucking lines, dots, nothing. Riverwalk downtown. Let's zoom in on this one. What the fuck is that? It's giving eclipse. Like, look at it. It looks exactly like the face of the fucking moon. That's weird. I was going through my whole camera roll trying to figure out, like, when exactly did this change occur? And 2022 is where I stopped yesterday because TikTok just kept deleting this fucking video. And I have to, this is the 4th time I've been remade it. So just to post it and get it out there, I'm going to just stop it here. I'm going to keep going through my camera roll and figuring out exactly where it fucking changed. So I'll be back.
So I honestly find that to be very interesting, and I do kind of think it like leans toward the theory of life being a simulation, which is something that I have always believed. But our next TikTok I want to talk about is a little crazy because it is a Disney movie conspiracy theory. But we have to realize who's making the Disney movies. It's Disney. So they are a company that obviously is one of the biggest companies in the world. If there is like an Illuminati or an elite, they know about it. So I find it interesting. So I find this Teen Beach movie conspiracy theory to be incredibly interesting. And a couple of you guys tagged me in this too, so I know y'all did as well. But the concept of Disney making a movie about like kind of life being a simulation, something about it doesn't feel right to me. Feels like they know a little too much. It just does.
I bet you thought by 2026 there wouldn't be anything else to say about Teen Beach Movie, but I just rewatched it and I have a possibly controversial theory. I don't think they ever left the movie. Here's what I'm talking about. So before Brady and Mac are washed into Wet Side Story in the first place by a rogue storm / destiny-powered surfboard, everything is really grounded in reality. With the exception of the magical tension coming off the family destiny board. Their hair stays wet, they have grown-up conflicts and tough conversations, and all that changes when they enter the Wet Side Story world. And that's like a big part of the plot, right? The fact that the movie isn't real, so the characters break into spontaneous, unexplained song and dance, and they never have wet hair even though they've been surfing. The movie really rubs our nose in it, because over the course of the movie, Mac and Brady are kind of meshing into the canon of the film. With spontaneous outfit changes and compulsive dance numbers, their physical beings start to follow the rules of the movie. Just like the movie is being changed by them, they are being changed by the movie. Then, at the start of the climax of the movie, when they're being held captive by the comical typical movie villains, they break the fourth wall. That was the point of no return. Because fast forward again, when the Magical Destiny Board takes Mac and Brady back to what they think is their original life, original universe, based solely on the fact that they have wet hair now. But I think actually what happened is that the movie adapted and changed around its new main characters. The second Mac and Brady inserted themselves into the plot of this movie, they became the main characters. They're like the only people there with full autonomy. So the movie let them believe they returned to the real world on their Magic Destiny board and instead kept them in zany surfer movie land. And do you know how I know? What does Teen Beach Movie end with? An unexplained, inexplicably coordinated dance number. And what does Mac do at the end of that dance number? She looks into the camera and she breaks the fourth wall. The only other time we see a character do that in the entire movie is when Dr. Fusion realizes he's just a flicker on the silver screen and stares directly into the camera. This would explain how the movie characters end up in the real world at the end of the movie. They don't. They just ended up in the expanded version of the movie world that Mac and Brady's characters require. And thankfully, this explains away the horrible sequel, which I will not name.
I just found it to be interesting how quickly she turned like a little Teen Beach movie into a horror film. Like, I just think that concept is so fucking freaky. Because if life is like a simulation, and a lot of the comments said this as well, but it kind of reminds people of Coraline, which is another concept of like going into this parallel universe and ending up in a parallel universe without realizing it. You think you've escaped the worst of it, but really you're just still there, and the story just kind of adapts around you. I feel like it shows like parallel universe theories and also life is a simulation theory. But I really want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. And it also leads into our next theory, which is kind of, I think, maybe the possible explanation behind the Mandela effect.
So you're living in a parallel universe since 2009, and this is why CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, has caused a lot of Mandela effects, a lot of strange things that you see, a change in time, a change in some of the things that you used to know to be so true. You see, what happened in 2009 was CERN successfully smashed particles together at near the speed of light, what scientists say could have caused a catastrophic event, launching Earth into a parallel universe. And that is why people that were born previous to 2009 remember things completely different than those that were born after 2009. But even if you were born in 2007, by the time your brain started to remember things, you'd be seeing things from the new parallel universe. People born in the 70s, 80s, and 90s have a way different outlook on this. We're talking about like movies that never existed, clothing that people used to wear that they never wore, words that were spelled differently on different television shows, all sorts of different things, from music to box labels on goods at a grocery store. It's almost gaslighting. And this is one of the main things even ChatGPT says, that if this did actually happen, one of the main things that we would notice would be time, and we've talked about that on the channel, check it out, and very subtle differences, things that we know dear to our heart. Movies.
There is a part of Scary Movie 2 that has its very own Mandela effect. Do you know about this?
No.
The quote, "Take my little hand," is the correct quote, right? From the film.
Yes.
But everybody
Take my good hand.
thinks it's "take my strong hand."
Yeah, it is take my strong hand. Take my strong hand.
No, it's "take my little hand," and my mind blew today.
Really? I thought it was
realising that.
take my strong hand.
You take my little hand. No, get it away from me.
Clothing, brands, things that we've been around our entire lives. So anyways, this is a dangerous machine, and I'm going to tell you why. Let me tell you about this thing. The Large Hadron Collider is a particle accelerator that is accelerating particles at the speed of light or very near it, like very, very close to it.
By accelerating particles such as protons to close to the speed of light. Those are then made to collide, and the high energy collision creates a burst of energy which then forms into new particles.
It smashes these particles together. Some scientists theorize that these explosions can actually create mini black holes. But the thing is, because these particles are so light that the black hole would evaporate actually rather quickly. But if it didn't evaporate, what could happen is that this black hole would be so dense that it could pass through regular matter quite easily, and it would be pulled by our gravitational pull from Earth down to Earth's core. Now, as this black hole got bigger and bigger and bigger, its gravitational pull would get stronger and stronger and stronger, and slowly, over a long period of time, it would actually just eventually consume all of Earth and destroy us all. Or like others say, absolutely destroy Earth instantly and push us into a parallel universe where some of us think we are now.
So honestly, I hate that, and that really stresses me out. I don't know what I believe here. I have always obviously found the Mandela effect interesting. If you guys didn't know, if you're new here, that's like where my come up really came from, was the Mandela effect. And I have always like genuinely believed in it. Like I still to this day know for a fact it was Berenstain Bears, not Berenstain Bears. Sorry, I know that. And I also know that the Fruit of the Loom logo had a fucking cornucopia, but it never did. And that's like the point of the Mandela effect. It does this CERN theory kind of explain it? And are we really in a parallel fucking universe? I don't even like to think about it because it would make sense, and I seriously do not know what else explains the Mandela effect. I'm so sorry, but the concept of people just like mass forgetting things or like misremembering whatever, that makes no fucking sense to me. It just doesn't. It just does not. I don't think it makes sense that the whole world remembers a fucking robber emoji and it just doesn't exist. Like that is so much like, you know, even more intense than like Berenstain Bears, because that's like one letter, you know, that could be a miscommunication, whatever. Why do we all remember something that wasn't there? The cornucopia? What do you fucking mean? And there's so much like proof that it did have a cornucopia on it, but it didn't. It never had one. And like that's the whole thing that just stresses me out. It's been stressing me out a lot lately. And honestly, the concept of parallel universes, different timelines, and like life being a simulation, it's giving me a little bit of stress, okay? All right, the last conspiracy theory I want to talk about is something that I find so fascinating, and it has to do with the conspiracy behind the prisoners who escaped Alcatraz. I have always believed that they did actually survive, and after hearing this TikTok, I totally am on board, but let me know what you think.
My toxic trait is believing that I could have escaped Alcatraz and survived the entire swim back. Apologies in advance for coming on the internet and sounding stupid, but I genuinely thought that Alcatraz looked more like Azkaban. When I was told the story about how the prisoners had escaped Alcatraz, the result of that case has always been very divided. Did they make it? Did they not make it? And I've always been on the side of no, of course they didn't make it, because who is surviving this? But now that I'm more aware of the surroundings and I've done a little bit more deep diving, I think they made it. So the people that escaped was John and Clarence Anglin and Frankly Morris. A guy by the name of Alan West was also supposed to escape with them, but he ends up ultimately getting left behind. But our guy Frank was born September 1st of 1926. He was considered to be extremely intelligent with a very high IQ, like considered to be in the top 2% of the population. But yet, since he was a teen, he was always in and out of prison. His criminal record consisted of bank robbery, burglary, drug possession. In the middle of a 10-year sentence to Louisiana State Penitentiary, he broke out, which is ultimately what got him sent to Alcatraz. But the funny thing is that the staff at Alcatraz actually considered him to be like a model inmate, but quietly all along he was just planning his escape. And he's ultimately considered to be the mastermind behind all of this. And he meets brothers John and Clarence Anglin, who are both in Alcatraz together. John was born 1930, Clarence 1931. He grew up in a large family that was considered to be poor. They were involved in a non-violent bank robbery and then were sent to Alcatraz after multiple attempts of escaping several different prisons that they were locked up in. I also want to preface and say that these two brothers were considered to be strong swimmers. Like they would swim in the cold Michigan lakes, like even through ice. And most of their contribution to the escape was actually constructing the escape tools. And then there was poor Alan, who was put in prison for car theft and tried to escape Florida State Prison, so booted to Alcatraz. All the stories that I do need to stop assuming, because for whatever reason, I did think that the people in Alcatraz were in there because they did something like horrible. Robbery and car theft, I know that they tried to escape, but like, that's not what I thought the place was for. But they built this place thinking that it was going to be absolutely unescapable. The water surrounding Alcatraz is considered to be frigid, especially at night. Rough, unpredictable currents, whirlpools, tide changes could all ultimately end up deadly. The prison also had constant surveillance, 12 guard towers, 24/7, armed guards. Even if you got out of your thick concrete cell, you had to go through multiple barriers, climb walls, get past watchmen. But how these guys ended up breaking through seems so utterly insane to me that to this day, I don't even know how this worked. I see why documentaries have been made off of this. I see how it's so impressive. I think that the reason that it did ultimately work is because they were playing the long game. For over 2 years, these four men were digging the vents. Behind everyone's cell is an air vent barely big enough for someone's head to even fit through, using spoons, scrap metals, and a homemade drill made from a vacuum cleaner motor, which I don't even understand. They were able to chisel the concrete out night after night after night. Probably thinking, how did they hide something like this? Well, they used a cardboard that kind of matched the wall in order to cover that section. And if you're anything like me, you're also probably thinking, well, this probably had to have made a lot of noise, right? Well, the inmates were given a music hour, so they would use the sound of an accordion to muffle them trying to escape. So after the 2 years were up and they were actually physically able to fit through these holes that they had dug up, next step was to ultimately create a distraction, which they needed to convince the guards that they were still in their bed even when they weren't. They did this through crafting a lifelike dummy head. Using things like soap, toilet paper, and glue, they essentially paper mached a head. They used paint from the art supplies room and real hair from the barbershop. So whenever the guards would walk by and check, they would just assume that they were sleeping. So once the vents were completely ready, they crawled through the wall into an unsecured utility corridor, climbed up to the ventilation shaft on the roof using drain pipes, went to the recreation yard on the roof, and then went back down the drain pipe. Eventually reached the northern shoreline, which I guess was just out of the view of the guards. And for their raft, they used over 50 stolen raincoats and cement, which somehow created a 13-foot long raft. And life preservers. They secretly glued all this together in a workshop area above the cell block, launched sometime around 10 p.m. June 11th, 1962. I guess during this time, the tides were heading outside the bay. It wasn't until the next morning, June 12th, whenever the guards woke up, they walked in, they saw the dummies, and they were like, oh, where are they? They found poor Alan stuck in a vent hole. An intensive manhunt then began. They called everyone. There was helicopters, there was boats, there was FBI agents, and ultimately the only thing that they came back with was some personal belongings along the bay, homemade paddle, and one of the life vests. No bodies were ever recovered. FBI ultimately closed the case in 1979, and they just strongly believe that no one could have survived that swim without leaving more evidence. If you're like me now, I honestly think that the FBI just wanted to protect its reputation at that point because, like, how embarrassing. Unescapable prison was just escaped via paper mache and some arts and crafts. They definitely wanted people to think that Alcatraz was unescapable. Also, weird tidbit, but the case was actually reopened in 2018 by the U.S. Marshal, saying that if the guys were still alive, they would be in their 90s. But there are 4 things that happened afterwards that truly stump me and really make me think that they did survive. One is that the family of John and Clarence actually started to receive signed letters from them years after they were pronounced dead, and would come in with roses for their grandmother. And allegedly, this would be exactly in their handwriting. Then a photo surfaced in 1993 that was taken in 1975 of the 2 brothers, allegedly taken by a family friend in Brazil. They were standing next to this farm truck. Facial recognition experts actually went in and said that this has a very high probability of being them. U.S. Marshals ended up visiting Brazil multiple times after seeing this image, but never came out with anything. And in 2013, there was a letter sent to the San Francisco Police Department. It was allegedly from John, basically stating things like, yes, we all made it that night, but barely, and stating that he was 83 years old and that he was dying of cancer. He offered to turn himself in if he was given minimal sentence time and medical care. He also stated that John Morris had passed away in 2008, and that his brother passed away in 2011. The police department actually kept this letter hidden for 5 years. Whenever they sampled the handwriting of all the guys, they just kind of deemed the letter inconclusive, which I feel like as you get older, your handwriting changes. The 4th thing was that there was actually a guy in prison by the name of Robert who was actually released before them, and he just strongly believed that these guys did not deserve to die in prison. So his job was to be lookout, and once they got to shore, he actually was able to take them to a safe place and transport them wherever. Although I don't know this guy's last name and backstory or anything, this was just mentioned on the History Channel documentary. The confession was considered credible enough that the U.S. Marshals investigated further, but in 2015, he admitted to all this on his deathbed and said that the men have just been living quiet lives in South Africa. Also, I just learned that triathletes, like, do this swim all the time. Granted, they don't have people on watch trying to pew-pew them, and this isn't happening, like, in the dead of night. Like, I'm sorry, look how happy some of these people are swimming this. Look at this person just diving, right? Like, are you kidding? Honestly, now that I've seen those photos, I will die on the hill that they survived.
I agree. I do think that they survived, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts. And I think that's one of the most interesting unsolved mysteries. But let me know what you guys think. But either way, that is it for today's video. Like I said, if you guys like it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below. And also let me know what other conspiracy theories you have been loving lately. Like, what rabbit holes have you been going down? Let us know. But that is it. Make sure you follow me on TikTok and Instagram and subscribe for new videos every week. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.